Good morning. The Inside Look's brought to you each Sunday morning by Gessel and Associates Insurance Agency, where we're busy doing the right things for the right reasons. My name's Larry Gessel. I'm your host. I'm joined in the studio this morning with my son Alex,
Hello.
Michael Morris Media, and our special guest Nick Wallach of Evolved Body Art. Thank you guys for being here. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good?
This
All
is
right.
going to be a different show than we normally do. I'm looking forward to
This
this.
one's going to be a little different. You know, each week we take a different topic. We try to peel the onion back a little bit. We call it the Inside Look for those reasons. We're trying to look at the things from the upside down perspective, if you will. Our goal is to entertain a little bit, have a little fun, and get to know each other even better. You know, Nick, over the years, we've had an opportunity to get to know each other pretty well. We've done some insurance business together, and you know, when Alex first met you, he said, "You know, Dad, I think he's one of the most interesting people I've ever met." And I said, "You know, Alex, you may be right. Yeah, he's got a lot going on." So,
I think we talked in the shop for about 10 hours that day.
so you definitely have a lot of different things that you're involved in, a lot of interests and business holdings, and I know you can't wait to get started talking about that. So, why don't you just take a few minutes to tell folks who you are and what it is you do and how you got into the business and how people can reach you and all that.
Great, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you for the
great to
introduction.
have you.
Thanks for having us here.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. So my name's Nick Wallach, and I was born here in Ohio. My family moved around a lot when I was growing up. One of the many cool places we spent time in was Chihuahua, Mexico. We lived there for a couple years in the 80s. After high school,
You helped El Chapo get his start down there, didn't you? The drug lord El Chapo?
Yeah, I don't think that's part of my
One
my
part of your
story.
circle.
Might have been some part of your resume.
Yeah, after high school, I spent a year in Brazil, and then made it back here to Ohio State. So Ohio State was kind of a landing stone for me, and I met a lot of interesting people. Started studying languages a little bit more. Continued traveling around the world, and then in the mid-90s, I was traveling somewhere. I got my first tattoo at a little kind of scary shop called Ricky's Tattoo in Hong Kong. I say the name of the shop because a lot of service people have been tattooed there over the last decades.
Still there, huh? Still going concern?
You know, I don't know about right now. I haven't checked in for a minute, but in the mid-90s it was.
It was hot.
Yeah.
And I've met people who have been there before. And then my next stop, I ended up in Acapulco, Mexico. At the time, there were no tattoo studios there at all. There were very few in Mexico. And a friend of mine and I just decided to give it a whirl, and we jumped in head first.
In Mexico.
In Acapulco, Mexico, and we were there for the first 6 years of my career.
Really?
Wow. We didn't know that part.
That's a background that
Yeah.
I did not know. So the origin of Evolved was actually in Acapulco, Mexico.
Yep, when actually a little bit before that. So Evolved became Evolved in 2000, but prior to that it was Viking Studios, and that was started by Lars Johansson here in Columbus, and that was started by him and Jen Marlette and Iggy Sweeney, a group of CCAD students.
Okay.
And they were doing some really amazing art, some really not underground per se, but they didn't advertise at all. They didn't submit their work to magazines. They wanted it all to be original, all to be unique. And I worked there for a short period during that time. And then the transition, it went from Viking to Evolved. And somewhere during the Viking time is when I was in Mexico. And our studio was called Dos Gabachos y un Chilango, which means two foreigners and a Mexico City person. Not translated very well.
It sounds really cool, but when
Yeah.
you put it in English, it's not as cool.
Yeah, can I get some chips with that? You know?
I was like so impressed with the name, and I was like, "Wow, that's not as exciting." But stick with the Spanish part.
Well,
It was really
yeah,
good.
and I'm being a little politically correct on
Gotcha.
air as well. So anyone who speaks Spanish will probably laugh.
I could
at
tell the
me.
way you were slowing down that there would be a word in there we're not supposed to know.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was it. I started in Mexico, and I came in. I took over an amazing opportunity, which was the Viking Studios opportunity, and Lars and I have been friends, and we continue as friends to this day. He was a great inspiration and great mentor.
That's great.
Is he still around then? Is he still
He is,
practicing?
yeah. He does. Well, no, he does. He has a position with Cover My Meds, and he does some really cool stuff with that company. And then he also takes off. He rode a rickshaw from the north to the south of India last year with his boss.
A rickshaw?
And a rickshaw.
Really?
Yeah. They took a month trip, and it was a race, and they went up and
That's
down
pretty
India.
neat.
He'd be a good person for the show, by the way.
Well, yeah.
He's
Quite a
interesting.
character, huh?
Yeah.
That's great.
I have a question. Where did you get the artistic background? Is that what you went to Ohio State for? Because I went to your shop, as I said, 15 years ago. We did business together when my hair wasn't this gray. But going in there,
And he has
I
a lot
had
of it.
no idea how, when you look at the walls in the place and the work you guys did, it's above and beyond what I thought. It was
Yeah.
more like an art studio than it was a
Yeah.
tattoo place or a
Well
piercing
said.
place. It
Yeah.
was beyond anything that somebody could imagine as we're describing it. But where does that come from? Did you have a background where you went to Ohio State for art, or CCAD was something you wanted to do?
Well, no, and I think I should first say that when anyone walks into Evolved and that experience, that's not me. That's an accumulation of many years
Culmination
of
of-
many people.
Absolutely.
I is sort of the captain of the ship, if you will. I make it a priority to hire interesting, talented people who bring things to the table that I would not otherwise bring. And so at Ohio State, I studied Portuguese and international relations. And then in 2000, I went back and got a master's degree in somatic studies.
What is that? What is somatics?
Somatic studies, a quick explanation would be the study of the mind, the body, the spirit, and how they're one thing, not three things.
Okay.
So it's just about everything.
Yeah.
And everyone in the program has a different focus and a different take on what that is. So I would say that the experience of Evolved walking in is one of art for sure, but it's one of culture. It's one of
I was
history.
going to say, you have a lot of culture that's been in there, and it's
Culture,
not.
yeah.
It's a very organic thing versus a contrived experience where you're trying to decorate it like a Mexican restaurant has a bunch of sombreros. That's not what you're doing. You can see the different people in different walks of life have come and gone, but they've kind of left their imprint in that building. It's a really unique space.
It's a culmination of the culture involved with Evolved, and it was really neat.
A lot of artifacts, a lot of
Yeah,
priceless,
yeah.
I don't know, priceless, but very
Priceless,
rare.
Yeah, priceless stuff you won't see. Michael, if you haven't been to our Summit Studio location, we have an entire wall now of it's a whole showcase.
Oh, you
from
back that long ago,
different-
you wouldn't have been at his current
Oh,
shop.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you've got to.
That's where I first met you, was at the
But what I
Summit
think is
Studio.
cool about the name is that the studio keeps evolving, like it keeps changing. That's
Sure.
what's cool about
Absolutely.
it. Because
Yeah.
the first time I met him, he was the friendliest person I think I'd ever met. But I was so busy looking at the walls because I'm wearing a suit when I go to talk to him because I was selling radio at the time, and he was just like, "Sit down, let's talk," and blah blah. And I couldn't even look at him because I'm like, "This is so cool." But
one thing I always miss about Nick, and I'm always reminded of when I've been away from him for a little bit, when you talk to Nick and he looks at you, his eyes, he's just penetrating your soul. It's almost creepy how much eye contact he makes. With you.
I think there's a
Yeah,
different way to
he's
say it.
he's
than that.
really.
I think he looks at you with intention. Let's
It,
not say
it's-
creepy.
it really
Yeah.
is. He's so intense and listening and paying attention and connecting with you.
Absolutely.
That
Yeah.
your gaze is very penetrating,
But
far
that's
beyond
probably
the
where he
average,
gets the somatic studies.
Yeah.
far
he's-
beyond the average person.
It's a really cool thing though to know that background because I think a
Yeah.
lot of people get into it. I've got friends that have tattoo studios and it's just I'm really good at drawing, and that's all they ever did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the background of what you're saying,
The culture.
your
that's
experiences to.
explained.
So we're hogging airtime.
Oh, sorry.
Take us back to what motivates you and what gets you excited and.
Well, I'll just add one more thing, and this is something a lot of people don't know, but sometimes people even come up to me and say, "Hey, Nick, you did my tattoo. Do you remember me?" I'm not a tattooer. I'm a body piercer, and I've had the extremely good fortune of working alongside of really talented artists. One of the biggest people in my life is Andy Ringo, and he is one of the most amazing artists I've ever met, and he is responsible for all sorts of the art you see in any of our stickers and t-shirts. Not all of it, but lots and lots of it. He and I have co-produced 2 children's books, where I've written them and he's illustrated them.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
I've
he's
forgotten.
he's got a couple comics out. He's
Yeah.
an amazing artist and a big influence on the tattoo side of what we do at Evolved.
I remember seeing some of that while I was at the shop, and really impressive work. Shout out to Andy.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd forgotten all about that.
I want to back up real quick, Nick. So you went to Ohio State, and what jiu-jitsu was involved in that, correct? Were you-
Judo.
Judo.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that? You've competed like internationally. Is that correct?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
So when I was in Brazil that year after high school, I basically was pretty much done with high school. I was
Okay.
there as an exchange
Yeah.
student,
Yeah.
but I had graduated from Medina High School in Ohio, and then I went and did a 6-month stint at a high school in Brazil and graduated another time, and then they put me
Okay.
into a 3rd senior year, and I just couldn't do it.
Oh, boy.
I
Yeah.
just
You get
couldn't
a
go back.
PhD if you get 3 senior years.
Isn't that how that works?
So yeah, I just quit going to class, and I went to the Rotary meeting, our weekly or monthly Rotary meeting, and told them, you know, my update, and they're like, whoa, you can't not go to school. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna go to high school. And this
I'm done.
this old
Yeah.
timer comes up, he's like, how about judo? You want to go to a judo academy? I'm like, what's judo? He's like, oh, I'll sign you up. And sure enough, I loved it, and I spent every day doing judo and jiu-jitsu at the time. Came back to Ohio. Ohio State had and has a program that was started by my sensei Funakoshi in the 50s, and so I trained with Sensei Funakoshi and Sensei Virgil Goodwine, who both have recently passed. So that was a big change in our lives. And yeah, I trained at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. I trained in France and Taiwan and Macau and Brazil and
Very cool.
Mexico and pretty much anywhere in the world. Sometimes I would have a backpack and half of the contents was my judo gi. My judo gi would take up half the bag. Trained in Cuba, trained a lot of different places, and so yeah, judo's been a huge part of my life. I say often that it saved my life, not only on a physical level, maybe in self-defense circumstances, but when I was in college, it was a pretty
Outlet.
rough patch of my life, and
Yeah.
judo kept me in school. It kept me kept my head above water.
Connected.
Yeah. And so nowadays, I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm the executive director of the Columbus Youth Guild. And so
You had mentioned that. to
yeah,
me.
so
Yeah,
we
I
started
recall
this
that.
nonprofit. It's a real 501c3, and it's based out of here in Columbus,
Columbus,
and
yeah.
we offer programs for hundreds of kids. We mainly do soccer and,
That sounds-
judo
it's-
because
yeah,
those are
soccer.
my focuses. But over the years, we've also done cheerleading and Lego robotics and sewing and fashion design and cross country and track and boxing, and we've run a gamut of
A
hobbies
really
and
eclectic.
sports.
That's awesome. Kind of mix.
How
of
many
different-
kids are involved in a program like that at any given time?
A couple hundred, 200-300. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is amazing. So
That's
you said Lego Robotics is one of the programs you guys have.
It is.
I'm sure that's a show in and of
it hasn't-
itself.
yeah, it hasn't been for a few years. All of our equipment, I forget who has it now, but it's in another program, so
Okay.
it's being used. And the interesting thing about the Columbus Youth Guild is that it's all volunteer run, so there's no paid positions, and then the money necessary to pay for all the sports and all the activities and buy the equipment is raised by the kids. So there's also an element to the Columbus Youth Guild where we teach and encourage the kids to go out and look for
A little bit of
sponsorships.
responsibility
Mhm.
and
Yeah, they do we collaborate and do a silent auction fundraiser every year. The kids go out and collect items. It's kind of a big party. It's a potluck party fundraiser.
Very cool.
And that one event each year, we raise thousands of dollars in addition to the thousands of dollars that come in as sponsorships throughout the year.
That's amazing.
That's amazing, Nick. You kind of, there's nothing you haven't touched, like life-wise. You've done things for yourself, you've done things for the community. It's really cool to see that because, again, I don't think people would know that other than this radio show and Facebook Live and whatever else we're doing. But it's cool to hear this backstory because you're not just going into your location every day, turning the lights on, doing your work, and going home. It's cool that you're doing things in your community as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, we found that out early on too when we did business with you on some of your investment properties, rental properties. We met at an investors meeting, a real estate investors meeting,
Yeah,
if you
true.
recall. And when you stood up to talk to the group, I went, "Gosh, this guy is really different than the rest of the people in the room." And little did I realize at the time just how different you were from them. But one of the things that really stood out to me as I got to know you better was that most of the people that are in renting homes from you are people that you know and consider to be friends.
Absolutely.
You have a connection with the community and with people that, and I think that's what Michael's really addressing. It's
Yeah.
very, very unique, and certainly unique to the investment world where the landlord-tenant relationships are arm's length and sometimes adversarial.
Yeah.
You don't do business that way. You
Yeah.
don't conduct your affairs that way.
And we try not to.
It's refreshing.
Yeah, it's
It's
really
refreshing.
very, very much so.
Absolutely.
Where's
A
that
lot of
come
respect.
from? That whole giving back to the community or being part of it? Does that come from your parents, or does it just come from your experience through traveling? Because you are well versed in a lot of different cultures. You could come back and be selfish about it and just take care of your own thing. It seems like you're trying to give more of yourself to the people around you. Does that come from something you were taught as a kid, or just being in various places all over the world?
You know, I had a great upbringing, and of course we all have our ups and downs in the way we've been raised, but I mean, as an adult and as an adult who has raised kids, I can look back and just see how many blessings I had in my upbringing. I would say though that a lot of the stuff that has inspired me over the years. So when I was in Brazil that one year, as a 17 turning 18-year-old,
Mhm.
I was on a beach in the northeast of Brazil, just a remote area, and we were playing soccer. We were running around playing and laughing, and I went to kick the ball, and there was a stone under the sand, and I kicked my toenail off
Ooh.
of my little toe or whatever, right?
Mhm.
And of course, that's like, oh wow, and I was bleeding, and you know, the sky was falling.
Traumatizing.
I ran up onto the edge of the beach, and there was a house there with a family, and they rushed out, and they're like, oh, let us take care of it, and I'm like fussing and whining and rolling on the ground, and the guy starts pouring alcohol on it. I'm like, oh, and he wraps me up, and he's like, don't worry, man, you'll be okay. He's like, this is what happened to me. I work in a sugarcane plant. And he was missing like almost every finger on his hand. You know, each finger was a different length. And I looked down at my little missing toenail, and then they're like, come on in, let us get you a drink. And they take me into this one-room shack with a dirt floor, hammocks, and they offer me hospitality.
Yeah.
You know, and that sort of thing has happened to me over and over and over and over again in my life and in the travels. And you just can't really put words to how that humbles you,
Right.
how that changes the way you look at your life, the opportunities that you've had and you've been given. And
Just makes you thankful.
Yeah.
No,
I'm grateful.
but that's what's cool is the perspective that you have, because a lot of people don't realize how fortunate they are
Yeah.
and forget there are other people that our job is to drag people forward, right? To get everybody to the same place, and we forget about that. That's why I'm glad you shared that story. It's such a unique thing because
Yeah.
Absolutely.
it really makes you kind of humble yourself. Like, what did I do for somebody today?
Yeah.
I just thought the reason I asked that question is you seem to be so involved in everybody else in your community and bringing them up. There are a lot of business owners that forget that part. So I would like to say thank you for talking about that, because somebody out there might change their perspective on how they do things because they heard your story.
Yeah, and it was so evident when first starting to talk about the successes of your store or the parlor. It was about the other people, the people that are there, the artists, and how talented and giving they are. You know, it is truly
It's about
unique.
the community and
Yeah. What are some of the things that people are surprised about? You know, me, obviously I'm an old fuddy-duddy. I'm not a tattoo and piercings guy, you know, but I see it everywhere I go. So what are some of the things that I'm always curious? What motivates the folks to do that? And perhaps what are they most surprised about? What are some of the things
as far as
maybe
the
they
process, you mean?
Yeah. And what are the things they typically don't know when they come in that might come as a surprise to them?
Well, we and I won't speak for the industry at large, but at Evolved, we have a whole series of procedures and protocol that we follow that revolve around hygiene. It's actually sometimes challenging for us to hire new artists because people don't want to be as clean as we insist that our artists
It's almost
be.
surgical clean there.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
So the cleanliness thing is one thing. Artistically, also we have amazing artists who tattoo now. We have people with CCAD degrees and OSU degrees. Kelly has a PhD. Jennifer has a PhD. I have a master's degree. So we have and this isn't all of us, but we have a wide range of education, and we make sure to look at our industry through many lenses and from many perspectives.
So the things that people are most surprised about when they first come to see you, we're going to run out of time here real quick, but if you could just briefly tell us what some of the things are that
Well,
people
I mean,
maybe aren't prepared for.
walking into the lobby, we have the whole wall of artifacts and things that are being lost, and that's a throwback to all the cultures that have walked before us and all the people who have influenced us, and it's sort of a little way to allow them to influence us still, because a lot of people just look at Instagram and just look at social media. That's sort of their culture, but to be in the presence of a 2,000-year-old septum piece or a 120-year-old tattoo needle, that's moving. So I think people are surprised when they walk in the lobby. Another thing we do is we make almost all of our own gold jewelry, and we use recycled, reclaimed gold. So we try not to buy any newly mined gold. So people come in, and not only is there are there a lot of options, but there's a lot of very intentional, well thought out options that are quite beautiful, and many of the pieces are one of a kind. We've only ever made one piece, and there won't be another one of those made.
I completely
I
forgot that
love the
word.
sustainable piece about what you guys are doing as far as everything that's going on with the environment and everything. That's really beautiful as well.
And then maybe another thing, and I know we're wrapping up on
You're
time,
good.
but
Just keep going.
another thing that we do. So a lot of I keep talking about the thought process. So the thought into the hygiene, the thought into the culture, the thought into what we're creating, how we're affecting our environment. We also generate about 50% of our own electric. So we have solar panels on our roof. The Dispatch did an article on us a year or two ago, and they guessed that maybe we're the first tattoo studio in the world to be solar powered.
That's pretty neat distinction.
I did not know
I
that.
did not know
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
We use we're trying to transition to all compostable gloves, which is a huge thing. There's
That's awesome.
we distill our own water. We recycle and upcycle many things because we are in an industry that we generate a lot of waste, and we're conscious of the waste we generate, and we do that because we want to keep things very clean and very safe for our clients.
Absolutely.
We also want to be realistic about what's fair to send to the landfills.
Absolutely.
That's too cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's unbelievable how fast time goes by. We say it every week, and particularly in today's instance, I think it's gone by even faster. We've barely scratched the surface of what we'd like to talk about. But
Yeah.
one thing I firmly believe is that each day we're all in a fight here. We're in a fight to fully protect those and that which we love most. We have to be ever diligent about it. Whether it's your farm, your business, your auto and home, Gessel and Associates Insurance Agency is here to help. We can be reached at 614-697-2020. Again, 614-697-2020, or go out to our website, gesselins.com. Nick, we're running out real fast. Tell us again how people can get a hold of you, how they can find you, and thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank everyone, and I also want to say, you guys have been really great to work with insurance-wise.
Oh, thank you.
And I know,
I
just
appreciate that.
so the listeners know, I was not asked to say that. That's that is true. They've been very,
It
very
was an honest
responsive.
plug, not a forced one.
Yeah, it's been a great
Here's
run.
your $20.
And
Another than screwing your insurance up from start
and
to
I
finish.
and
We've been
I,
okay,
I
right?
misspelled your name for a long time, so
Did
it's
you?
GESSEL
Not two L's.
.com.
Yeah.
For everyone
Yeah,
listening,
INS.
just so you find
Yes.
them, and then
Yeah.
we're at evolvedbodyart.com.
Great.
Thank you all very much.
Well, thanks for being here, guys, and all of you. And until next week, please be kind to one another.